Hello, everyone. A very logical day to all of you. We'll be discussing the first editorial of the Indian Express, January 28. Let's see what we have in store for us today. Yes, we'll be coming up with the reading part, then we'll discuss the main idea, and then the vocabulary. Yes, today we have quite many good words. So, the heading Market Message. So, following the sharp sell-off on Wednesday, shares of all listed Adani Group companies came under acute pressure on Friday as well. At the close of markets, Adani Enterprises, the flagship entity of the group, was down around 18%. Adani Transmission has fallen 20%, as have Adani Total Gas and Adani Green Energy. Adani Ports was down 16%. Adani Power, Adani Wilmar were down 5% each. All this is data just to show that there is acute pressure. So the point was acute pressure. This has come under acute pressure, and this is the data to prove it. Now, this soaring of investor sentiment is being traced to the release of a report by Hindenburg Research, a New York-based investor research firm, which has raised several questions and concerns that range from the group's high debt levels and negative cash flows to the use of shell companies based in tax havens such as Mauritius. Now, a very lengthy sentence, so to say, but then this soaring का मतलब SOUR SAR का मतलब होता है कट्टा. तो इन्वेस्टर सेंटिमेंट इतने खटास में क्यों आ गई है मतलब why is it coming up with a negative feeling towards Adani? Why, which was explained by this data, right? So the reason now, that means the author says, the reason is, or the reason, yes, the reason why the investors are coming up with this sentiment is because of the release of the report. The report comes from Hindenburg Research, and it has raised several questions and concerns that range from the group's debt level. So, ye sab hai. The cash flows to the use of shell companies. I have highlighted this word shell companies based in the tax havens. These are two things. I'll tell you later what to do of it. Now, the report has accused the Adani Group of engaging in brazen stock manipulation and accounting fraud scheme over the course of decades. So, the main point of this whole paragraph would be that this Hindenburg research, the report of this Hindenburg research on the Adani enterprises is that they manipulate the stock and the fraud schemes. And this is not today's work, it is over a course of decade. So, this is the accusation that the report has laid on the Adani Group. So the major point would be that the Adani Group is under acute pressure, right? Why? Because the report from Hindenburg Research has raised several questions and it has accused the Adani Group of stock manipulation and accounting and fraud scheme. Right? So this part and this part together would make the main idea of the first paragraph. Next, in its response, the Adani Group has called the report a malicious combination of selective misinformation and stale, baseless, and discredited allegations. It says that the timing of the report's publication clearly betrays a brazen, malafide intention to undermine the Adani Group's reputation with the principal objective of damaging the upcoming FPO from Adani Enterprises. Right? So, this is what they have or how they have responded. They say that, see, this is a malicious report containing selective misinformation and all this, and malified intention because of the timing of the release of the report. Now, the timing does raise questions from the point of view of the author. The report was released just 2 days before Adani Enterprises' follow-on public offer was to open for subscription. The research firm also disclosed that it has taken a short position in Adani Group companies through US traded bonds and non Indian traded derivative instruments. But notwithstanding the Hindenburg report and the Adani Group's response to it, concerns have been flagged in the past as well. मतलब सिर्फ इस रिपोर्ट की बात नहीं है, हिडनबर्ग रिपोर्ट की बात नहीं है, उसके पहले भी they have raised questions or concerns of the matter. Credit sites, a Fitch Group unit, had previously called the conglomerate deeply leveraged. While following a conversation with the management, it claimed to have discovered some calculation errors, even as it did not change its investment recommendations. Leverage यानी किसी एक तरफ झुकाव होना may be inclined towards, or you can understand it as being influential in something. A report in this paper had pointed out, it's still about the past, that even as private mutual funds have shied away from investing in the group's firms, LIC has been steadily increasing its shareholding in its company, principally Adani Enterprises, Adani Total Gas, Adani Green Energy, Adani Transmission, Adani Ports. LIC's investment in the Adani group of companies was more than 5 times the value of the holdings of all equity mutual funds. Questions have also been raised about the group's shareholding pattern. So these are just parts of the questions and concerns that have been raised on the working of the Adani group. This was a continuation of the second paragraph. Now the sheer size of the Adani group, और उसके बाद एक छोटा सा dash. Understand the use of this punctuation also. So it has interest across large swaths of the Indian economy. देखो punctuation वापस बंद हो गया. तो दो dash के बीच में जो आता है ना, this idea or this is an explanation of the main subject here. This is the use of the two dashes, right? So the sheer size of the Adani group, and then they are coming up with this. It has interest across large swaths of the Indian economy, and the implications for the larger financial system call for far greater scrutiny and transparency than what has been on display. Now comes the author's main point कि whatever has been given about the Adani group, whatever the Hindenburg research has displayed or given in the report, whether it is right, wrong, false, true, correct, incorrect, कुछ भी हो, कितना भी हो, but the investors' sentiment has been affected. थोड़ा सा खटाई में आ गया है, that means investors थोड़ा उस पे trust कम हो गया है, तो market is falling, right? Second, it says whatever be the case, it needs greater scrutiny and transparency. It calls for. To call for something means it asks, right? That means अब ये होना चाहिए. क्या होना चाहिए? Greater scrutiny, transparency on than what has been on display. Now, the interests of the average Indian investor need to be protected, and the sanctity of capital markets must be maintained. The sell-off may have put a cloud over the firm's secondary share sale, may have put a cloud, but how the Adani Group responds to the market and addresses the concerns raised has ramifications that go beyond just its own boardroom. The regulator too has its task cut out. Cut out का मतलब क्या हुआ? Well defined. ये एक और phrase है, मैंने इसे highlight नहीं किया है, but well defined इसका meaning हो जाएगा. Cut out, I think so, we have done in the previous article discussion also. So now we have these three paragraphs and we have the three ideas. So the first one was saying that the Adani group is under great pressure. Acute pressure से word use किया था. ठीक है, ऐसा क्यों? Because of the release of a report by Hindenburg Research. And what does the report say about its market manipulation and about the fraud schemes? And there was another point there that the souring of the investor sentiment. That means the market was falling because of this report. Now, the second paragraph says what it is here. Now, in its response, what has Adani Group done? Adani Group says that it is a malicious combination. ये सब गलत है. Malified intention है. देखो तुम्हारे पास दो negative words आ गए, malicious and malified, both with the prefix mal, right? So it is a malicious combination of the misinformation. It is with a malified intention. Why? Because this report was released just 2 days prior to the opening up of the FPO of the Adani Group. तो एक कोई ना कोई तो उसे नुकसान पहुंचाना चाहता है in that way. Then the author says that see, this is not the only case about the Hindenburg research, but the concerns have been raised by the Fitch group unit also, right? And what was the concern? डीपली लेवरेज्ड है ये सब, ठीक है. And then comes up with the third paragraph. No, there was one more point here about LIC, that even this has increased its shareholding. तो क्वेश्चन तो अब शेयर होल्डिंग पे भी जाता है, क्योंकि उसने बहुत ज्यादा उस पे साइज में कर दिया है, राइट. इन्वेस्टमेंट इज 5 times the value of the holdings of all equity mutual funds, right. So now this gives you a reason. Mean, if they ask you a question, or if they ask you a CR, a critical reasoning वाला, इस पे based आ सकता है question. कहीं पे भी, mean, see why I am taking this in between also, because at the end of the day you should understand the passage so that you are able to answer correctly. Accurate answers चाहिए. तो अब ये भी सोचो कि author ने जो कुछ कहा है, चाहे उसने एग्जाम्पल दिया है या रीजनिंग दिया है, तो व्हाट इज इट दैट द ऑथर हैज कन्वेड, or what is it that the author has assumed, and what from all this what the author has given, what we can infer. तो यही क्वेश्चंस बन जाते हैं क्रिटिकल रीजनिंग में कि ऑथर ने अज्यूम क्या किया है. तो जब एलआईसी इतने, व्हेन ही सेज दिस सेंटेंस, नो, अदानी ग्रुप ऑफ कंपनीज वाज मोर देन 5 times द वैल्यू ऑफ द होल्डिंग्स of all equity mutual funds. So from this we can get a question based on inference, or we can get a question based on assumption also. But we know what the author has written. He has given as an example. Let's see, LIC has invested so much, or as is the shareholder of the company. Now, the last paragraph is coming up with that. See how expanded, extensive is Adani Group, that it is affecting all the areas of the Indian economy or a financial system. Because this is so, it calls for far greater scrutiny and transparency. तो जो दिखाई दे रहा है उसे कहीं ज्यादा स्क्रूटनी करनी पड़ेगी और ट्रांसपेरेंसी रखनी पड़ेगी, क्योंकि अदानी ग्रुप में जो हो रहा है उसका इम्पैक्ट कहीं ज्यादा, कहीं फैला हुआ होगा. दैट मीन्स इट विल हैव अ वेरी ग्रेटर, अ फार रीचिंग इम्पैक्ट, यू कैन से, ऑन द फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम और द इकोनॉमी ऑफ अ कंट्री, राइट. एंड देयरफॉर इट नीड्स अ ट्रांसपेरेंट, and it needs, उसे क्या कहा था, regulator too has its task cut out. That means it needs investigation, it needs scrutiny. ये सब देखना पड़ेगा. They need to probe into it, they need to investigate it. So SEBI should be doing it. Let's see what it says. Now, why all this is required? Because the Indian investor needs to be protected. Then the sanctity of the capital markets must be maintained. दो चीजें, right? Now the point to here is that how the Adani Group responds to the market. Let us see that, and whatever it does, whatever decision it makes, will be more. It will be, see, ramifications would mean coming up with the outcomes or consequences or impact or effects. ये बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं, ये सारे interconnected words हैं. Ramifications कई बार multi-tiered ramifications हो सकते हैं. That means if something has been done, now here is the report, right? Now if this is the report, this report is bringing, or it is affecting the market share of the conglomerate, right? Market share के effect ये है कि उसके जितने भी हैं कंपनीज इसके साथ, उन सब में शेयर डाउन हो रहे हैं, इसकी प्राइस लेवल डाउन हो रही है. नाउ दिस डिक्रीज or decline in the share prices will definitely have more impact on other things as well, right? ये हो जाता है, एक दो तीन चार, एक के बाद एक के बाद एक, cause effect करके it will come up as a multi-tiered ramifications. If we सब branching out जैसे होता है ना, see this is the complete branching out, कभी बार classification करते हैं ना हम जैसे. So in this way, it has multiple effects, all these, and then it spreads out. ये हर कहीं पे ये spread out हो जाएगा. So this is going to affect the whole market. In this way, it is called ramification, right? So the ramifications will go beyond its own boardroom. So what is to be done is the regulator has to work now. उसे investigate करना पड़ेगा, scrutinize करना पड़ेगा, उसके effects को समझना पड़ेगा, That is it. So here comes the main idea of the three paragraphs. First, report has accused the Adani Group of engaging in brazen stock manipulation and accounting fraud scheme over the course of decades. Fine. We can add one thing more: the soaring of the investor sentiment. Investor sentiment. ठीक है, अगर हमने इसे भी ऐड कर लिया, पर इसे वैसे हमने दिमाग में रख लिया है, क्यों? क्योंकि डेटा पूरा जो था वो था डिक्लाइनिंग वाला, डाउनवर्ड एरो था. So these things can be kept in mind. The major point was that it has been accused. The timing raises questions. Concerns have been flagged in the past as well. Matlab, this is not the first time that is happening. Questions have been raised about the group's shareholding pattern. यहाँ पर जहाँ उसने LIC का एग्जाम्पल दिया था, ठीक है. Implications for the larger financial system, whatever is happening as a result of the report, this is definitely going to have an impact on the financial system. And it calls for far greater scrutiny and transparency than what has been on display. The investor needs to be protected. Regulator too has its task cut out. And how the Adani Group is going to respond to the market, that is what needs to be seen. Right, so all these are the 3 points. Now, if you have a question on central idea, we'll be able to identify it. Suppose you have a question on the summary that you need to identify the correct summary out of the four. तो भी हमारे पास ये तीनों पॉइंट्स होने चाहिए कि अक्यूज किया था रिपोर्ट में ब्रेजन स्टॉक मैनिपुलेशन का, ठीक है. उसके बाद the group's shareholding pattern was in concern or it was questioned. It's going to affect everyone, the large financial system, and Indian investors need to be protected. And the last thing that the regulator has to go in for the the investigation and scrutiny. ढूंढना पड़ेगा उसे रीजन कि वाकई में ये सही है या गलत है. दिस इज द टास्क ऑफ द regulator, and that is well cut out. So here we have the route in Adani Group shares. ठीक है, अब हमें राउट का मीनिंग नहीं भी पता है तो भी समझ में आ गया कि शेयर्स कम हो रहे हैं ऑलमोस्ट ऐसे, तो राउट वुड बी डिक्लाइनिंग और defeating. After a short seller report calls for देखो फिर से एक फ्रेज आ गया, more scrutiny and transparency. This is what is required now. Right, so I hope you have understood this. There will be many बोलेंगे यार शेयर मार्केट का कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है इधर, पर हमें कुछ समझना नहीं है. हमें इतना करना है कि लोगों का भरोसा होता है उस पे, और शेयर मार्केट जो निफ्टी है या जो भी है वो ऊपर नीचे होती है. एटलीस्ट दिस इज अ टाइम वे यू कैन रीड अ लिटिल ऑन द शेयर इन द स्टॉक मार्केट्स, ये आखिर ये होता क्या है. राइट, अगर हमने रीडिंग की बात अभी की है तो रीड अ लिटिल ऑन दिस. Secondly, I had underlined two words, or rather I had named 1 and 2 also. Right, तो ये पहले समझ लेते हैं हम कि करना क्या है. हमारे पास क्या था, एक शेल कंपनीज, ठीक है. सो दिस इज अ टास्क अगेन फॉर यू टू रीड अबाउट इट, रीड अबाउट शेल कंपनीज एंड रीड अबाउट द टैक्स हेवन कंट्रीज. ठीक है, दो चीजें हैं. हमने कल कल तीन चीजें दी थी पढ़ने के लिए. सेक्युलरिज्म था, फेडरलिज्म था, और कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल डेमोक्रेसी. तो तीन चीजों के बारे में पढ़ना था. आज हमारे पास सिर्फ दो चीजें हैं पढ़ने के लिए, शेल कंपनीज और टैक्स हेवन कंट्रीज. ठीक है, यू रीड अबाउट इट. सो स्पेंड 10 to 15 मिनट्स. आप नेट पे जाओ, आराम से रीडिंग करो. ठीक है, सोच समझ के रीडिंग करो. आपको सिर्फ वर्ड्स की रीडिंग नहीं करनी है, यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. सो रीड इट बाय यूजिंग योर ब्रेन्स, आखिर ये है क्या, बिकॉज दिस इज समथिंग दैट नीड्स टू बी केप्ट इन योर माइंड. ठीक है, यू डोंट नीड टू क्रैम इट, यू नीड टू गेट एन अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ इट कि ये होता क्या है. अगर पता है तुम्हें तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, थोड़ा सा और पढ़ लेना, यू विल इम्प्रूव ऑन योर नॉलेज. नहीं पता है तो एटलीस्ट टू गेट एन अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ दीज टॉपिक्स. यू नेवर नो, कभी भी इस पे बेस्ड कोई पैसेजेस आ जाएंगे तो इट विल बिकम इजी रीड फॉर यू देन. ओके, विल कम अप विद वोकैबुलरी. आज एक्स्ट्रा शॉर्ट्स नहीं है, आज ये वोकैबुलरी होगा. सो राउट, डिफीट हमने अभी क्या था. स्क्रूटिनी, यू ऑल नो स्क्रूटिनी, स्क्रूटनाइज, एग्जामिन, ऑब्जर्व, नोटिस, सारे वर्ड्स आ जाते हैं. एग्जामिन मेटिकुलसली का मतलब होता है केयरफुली, तो उसे हम स्क्रूटिनी बोल सकते हैं, थोड़ा सा इंटेंस होता है. फ्लैगशिप प्रोजेक्ट होता है, द मोस्ट प्रोमिनेंट वन, द लीड वन, द बेस्ट वन दैट यू वुड से. सारिंग इज ruining क्योंकि सार इज लाइक आपने किया था अभी कि सार का मतलब होता है खट्टा होना. तो जब रिश्ते खटे खटाई में आ जाते हैं ना, इन दैट वे, तो इट वाज ruined. So the sentiments of the investors was ruined. Tax havens, I'll just give a small thing that it is either no or minimal tax होता है. तो ऐसी कंट्रीज होते हैं जहाँ पे कंपनीज रजिस्टर की जा सकती हैं, वहां पे उन्हें टैक्स बहुत कम देना पड़ेगा. तो दिस इज अ वे ऑफ हाउ टू अवॉइड पेइंग टैक्स इन आवर ओन कंट्री, एंड दिस इज समथिंग दैट many companies do. ठीक है, आई वाज जस्ट रीडिंग. सो वॉलमार्ट जैसी कंपनी ने इतनी सारी सब्सिडियरीज ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, जितनी टैक्स हेवन कंट्रीज है उसमें सब्सिडियरीज रजिस्टर कर रखी हैं, बट एक्चुअली में फिजिकली कोई कंपनी कोई वो है नहीं वहां पे, राइट. बट देन रीड मोर अबाउट इट, इट विल बी बेटर फॉर यू. malicious is, we know mal is hate or bad. ठीक है, तो mal का मतलब hate होता है. तो wicked, spiteful, हेटफुल कुछ भी कर सकते हो. डिसक्रेडिटेड इज जिससे क्रेडिट हटा दिया जाता है. तो क्रेडिट देना, क्रेडिट करना या क्रेडिट देना इज अ पॉजिटिव वर्ड. डिसक्रेडिट इज नेगेटिव. तो डिसग्रेस्ड और ह्यूमिलिएटेड बिकम्स वेरी इजी. मैलिफाइड, again we have the word the prefix mal, but we have another root word here today, right? So fid, if for those who have attended my vocab session, I have taken the root words in some of the classes, and in the others I'll be taking. So FIT stands for faith, right? If it is faith, you have the word like fidelity, confide, confidence. ये faith हो जाता है. तो हमारे पास फिड एज ए रूट वर्ड है. अब मैलिफाइड का मतलब होता है विद बैड इंटेंशंस, मे बी टू डिसीव, इंटेंट टू डिसीव होता है. और मैलिफाइड का ऑपोजिट, इफ आई गिव यू विद अ क्रॉस, दैट मीन्स ऑपोजिट. ऑपोजिट इज बोनाफाइड. Bonafide is with good intentions, malified is with bad intentions. Conglomerate is corporate, leveraged, influenced, shied away. To shy away from something is another phrase. मतलब कोई चीज जो आप या तो हेजिटेंट हो करने के लिए, या तुम्हें पूरा कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं है करने का, उससे आप अवॉइड करते हो, वहां से बच के निकल जाते हो, तो दैट इज टू शाई अवे फ्रॉम समथिंग. Sheer is absolute swaths, huge, vast swaths of land. ठीक है, इट इज यूजली द एरिया, द टेरेन. ठीक है, वो हो जाता है. अब चाहे फिजिकली हो या कहीं पे भी हो, तो शेयर साइज में भी स्ट्रक्चर, सॉरी, स्वट्स इज द एक्सटेंसिव पार्ट. पुट अ क्लाउड ओवर समथिंग, मतलब पुट अ क्लाउड इज टू मेक समथिंग अनक्लियर, या उसे कवर कर देना, हाइड कर देना, अनक्लियर कर देना. समझ में नहीं आना तो वेग कर सकते हो. And ramifications, consequences, I just explained it. Multi-tiered ramifications, you can understand. ठीक है, एक देखो, एक कॉज होता है तो उसके कई सारे इफेक्ट्स होते हैं, बट अल्टीमेटली वो इफेक्ट्स भी तो कॉज बनते हैं ना, क्योंकि उसके आगे भी और इफेक्ट्स जुड़ जाते हैं. So this becomes a multi-tiered ramifications in this way. Therefore, it is called branching out. So that's all for today, and see you on Monday. Thank you for being here with me, and stay logical. And I hope you will revise it. Tomorrow you won't get any editorial discussion, no? So you have time enough to revise. That's it. Thank you. Let me see.